This is a tutorial on the DJI Mic 2 wireless mic system. In this video, I'm going to be going over the 2 transmitter, 1 receiver kit, but the same rules apply and everything's the same even if you get the one with 1 transmitter and 1 receiver. The kit comes in this pouch like you see here. You open this up and inside is a small case like this, and you should find a couple of other cables. This is your USB to USB-C cable. You can charge this. This actually charges the receiver and the transmitters here. You can see that it's fully charged here. All right, if you needed to charge it, you could connect the USB-C cable back here like that. And then this goes into your regular USB charger. The case opens right here on the front. You press this down and you lift it up like that. Also inside the little pouch here are 2 wind screens. So if you're outside on a windy day, you need to cut down some low rumbling noises, etc., you can attach these to the top of the transmitters. So you take the transmitter out. It's got a small hole right here. This is where the lavalier microphone would go if you're using the optional lav. Now, mind you, this is the microphone on the DJI system right here. You attach the windscreen to the windscreen, has this little plastic thing coming out of it right here. That goes in the hole where the lavalier mic would go. So if you're doing sit-down interviews and so on, the lavalier mic is a great option. This is how your DJI mic looks with the windscreen on. This is the DJI lavalier that you can check out separately, and it connects right here on this transmitter or right here on this transmitter. There's also small magnets on the back of these mics here that you see, and they could attach behind the shirt, or they really attach to anything that's metal, including the front of the case, like that, which is a good way to mount the mic somewhere if needed. In here you also have, this is the receiver. We'll talk more about this in a minute. And then you have these 2 options here that you can change on the receiver itself to connect it to your iPhone or to connect it to USB-C like a laptop. And the way you do that real quick is the back of this slides off right here. So we can take that off like that. And then this goes in this way, like so. And now you can attach this to any lightning connector like this, which is basically your iPhone connectors. Or if you want to attach it to a USB-C, like a computer that has a USB-C in, now you could attach your receiver to a USB-C. When the transmitters are turned on, you get this green light here, like you see here, and then I'll take this one out as well, turn it around so you can see it, and now it's only showing the receivers being charged by the case, not the transmitters. Now you'll see that these lights are flashing green. That means that it is not synced to the receiver, and that's happening because the receiver is still sitting in here. So really all you have to do is take this out, and now when you take a look, you see here the display of the receiver. So you have a microphone on the left, a microphone on the right. So that's one microphone, that's the other. Notice the lights now are a solid green, they're no longer blinking. The reason these mics are separated like this, I have 2 transmitters, so I have 2 options here. This tells me the signal strength of transmitter 1. This tells me the signal strength of transmitter 2. And then this tells me the battery life for the receiver. This is the battery life for the transmitter on the left. This is the battery life for the transmitter on the right. All right, so let's jump into the different menus that are in the receiver. There's quite a few to go through. Right now, this is what it looks like, by the way, with the receiver turned on and neither transmitter is on. So if I power up one transmitter by holding down the power button here, notice I get a display that looks like this. This is what it would look like, by the way, if you're using just the kit with one receiver transmitter. This icon here represents stereo recording, which when you're using 2 microphones like this, I highly recommend you choose this option because it splits the audio from each one into its own separate track. So you can keyframe and adjust each track separately, which is something you really want to do. You don't want to record in mono or mono with safety track when using 2 microphones or 2 transmitters. All right, so how do we change this record mode? Right now it's recording in stereo like it should be. I'm going to go ahead and swipe down and come over here to receiver settings. And the first option is the mode I'm going to record in. So if I click here, that's mono. Now it's recording. If I come back out by hitting the power button on the side, this is how you turn the receiver on and off. Notice I'm getting mono here. I have no L and no R. It's basically recording the audio from both of these and mixing it together into one signal, which is really not something you want to be doing in this scenario if you're using two transmitters. Mono plus safety, it will still mix the two and put it on the left channel, and then the right channel will be slightly lower than the left channel. So it kind of records a secondary copy over here that's 6 decibels lower than the master copy or the one-on-one. So if you see this M here and you have two transmitters, also not where you want to be. So you want to come back here and put it in stereo mode like this, like that. And that can hit this button, take us back to the home screen. This is where you should be. If you plug in headphones to monitor the audio coming out of the receiver here, you would do so here, and you would see that icon appear on the front screen. And this is the output that you're going to use to connect to the camera. You would use this 3.5mm jack cable. This end goes in here, and the other end goes into the camera. I'll show you how that works in a bit. On the back, this is where you would charge using the USB-C cable. You would charge the receiver like that. Let's take a look inside of the menus here. So we have the receiver settings, we have the stereo. We'll come here. This says recommended camera settings. So to go to recommended camera settings, we're going to choose the brand, and in this case it's Sony. We'll swipe back up, and then we'll choose the model. Our model is the A7S III. Now we're going to keep going to there. So now I swipe up and it says brand, Sony, model A7S III. So now when I come back to the home screen quickly by hitting the power button, notice it says +9. It's added 9 dB of gain. It thinks that's the default that every Sony A7 III should use. I personally am not a big fan of defaults. I like having more control over it myself. This is a fine place to start, but just know that it is a default setting. Okay, so you'll have 9 dB of gain here. You can set the dBs of gain on the transmitter separately. I'll show you that in a second. And of course, on the camera itself, you'll turn the input all the way down to 1, all right, because we don't want the camera blowing out the audio either. You don't have to go into the menu to do all that gain stuff. You can just press this wheel. Notice I get this yellow rectangle, and now I can manually manipulate the level of gain like this by turning the knob one way or the other. So I'm going to go like this. If I press it again, now I'm affecting the gain on this transmitter, the left one. If I press it again, I'm affecting the gain of the right transmitter, like so. Now let me put those back to 0. Okay, and then I'll go back into my menu, my receiver settings, my camera, and then I'm just going to choose none because I don't want that on for now. And we'll go to the next one. This is the receiver gain, which the camera settings kind of automatically did for you, but now I showed you how to override that. This one is for the volume of your headphones. So when you do have headphones connected here, you'll see this icon on the home page on the main screen. Just keep in mind, remember that the level of the volume has no impact on the level of the recording. This is just to simply monitor on your headphones. Power on, off, camera simultaneously. So what this means is you have it connected to your camera, the receiver connected to your camera, you can turn the camera off and the receiver will turn off. You turn the camera on, the receiver will turn on. It's a good way to kind of save some battery. And then this option here, receiver auto off, will after a period of inactivity just shut itself off, again to help preserve battery. And then linking, if you need to manually link a device, you can do so using this menu here. In our case, since you're using these transmitters, the fastest way to link something, if it does happen to become unlinked, put it in the case and put all 3 devices back in the case, take them out, and it'll sort of link on its own. All right, so those are your receiver settings. Let's talk now about the transmitter settings. Again, these are your transmitters. So let's talk about these settings. Click on here, low cut. Low cut is what you would use when there's some rumbling noise in the background, maybe some traffic off in the distance or the hum of an AC. Sometimes this can help eliminate those, but do know that it's on off. There's no setting for it where you can dial in a specific value or an amount. The transmitter gain, again, you could go into the menu and do it here, but I showed you the shortcut just by using this dial over here. 32-bit float recording. Now this sounds awfully technical and jargony, but this is a good idea to have this on. And what happens is when you turn it on, and I go back to the home screen, you'll see it says 32BF or 32-bit float. Now this audio file, this 32-bit audio file, is basically a way of recording audio that gives you more dynamic range, more highs, more lows, so that when you go into an audio processing software, something like Adobe Audition, for example, you have more leeway in fixing audio. It's not a failsafe, but it's a good idea to have it turned on. There's no harm in doing it. The audio file itself is not recorded as part of the video file that you would if you were recording on your camera. Instead, it's saved here internally on the transmitters. So you'd hit the record button here to start and stop the recording, and your 32-bit file would be saved here. You would then need to use the USB-C cable like this, connect this end here, and then the other end to your computer, and then copy all the files over and sync it up in post in Premiere. So we'll leave 32-bit float turned on now for both of those. Go back into our transmitter settings. That was our gain. That's 32-bit float. All right, record, stop, lock. Why is this here, or what does it do? Now, what this does is I'll go ahead and turn it on. And with it on, remember this record button before I showed you would start and stop the recording. Now it will start the recording, but it will not stop the recording. Why would you want this? So let's say you're giving this microphone to somebody who's moving around a lot or has it in their pocket or whatever. You don't want them to accidentally bump it and stop the recording. So basically this option here locks this button from stopping the recording. Then the question becomes, well, how do you stop the recording? Because see, I have the red light on here and I have the red light on here. How do I stop this recording if we're done? You have two options. You could, of course, just turn the receiver off. Or you could swipe up on receiver 1. See how it says TX1 is recording. The microphone is on, so it's hearing me. And then this is noise reduction. So if I wanted to stop the recording, I could stop it right there. And notice the red light is now off. If I hit this, the microphone is muted, which gives me a slightly more dim red light. So I could do that. Or if I do this, the noise reduction is on. And now noise reduction is off. If I do that, if I swipe up over here on the right, I have those same options for transmitter 2. The next option on the menu is noise reduction via button. Okay, so we could turn this on and off here. I like leaving this turned on because what this means is if I go back to the main page here, if I don't long press it, but if I tap the power button, I get this icon here, which shows me that noise reduction is on. Again, if I swipe up from here, you see the noise reduction is on for transmitter 1. If I swipe up over here, it's not on. But I could either turn it on here or tap the power button for transmitter 2. So if I do that, now it is on. And notice both transmitters have the icon. So leave noise reduction via button turned on because that will let the power button act as your noise reduction on and off. Again, if you have it turned off, so if I go here and I go here and I go here, and I go back, now the power button doesn't do the noise reduction anymore. Okay, but you could still swipe up and do the noise reduction there. And if I come back to the main menu, it still has it on there. So I'm going to swipe up, turn off noise reduction, come back. I do like having that option on the power button, so for me, I'm going to leave it on. Auto record, I'm not quite as big a fan of auto record, at least not for what I do. I will recommend that you leave it off for now, but basically that means when you take the transmitters out of the case, they are automatically start recording. This next one is the storage option. It tells you how much storage is left on each transmitter, so you have a good idea of how much space is available while you're recording. In this case, I have a whole bunch of space on both because I haven't done much recording yet. One thing that may not be inherently obvious is that if you tap these numbers, you get the option to swipe to format the transmitter. And all that means is, let's say you check this out, it's the middle of the semester, a lot of people have been using it, you don't know how many audio files are on there or what's on there, and you want to start with a clean slate, well then reformat it. You swipe it over, it'll take a second, and then once it's done formatting, this transmitter is now clean and ready to go, and you have all the record time back. All right, so now I can just click confirm, and now our record time is back. Vibration notification is a simple on-off. I like leaving it on because it tells me, I get feedback from the device that it's doing something. So if I hit this once, I feel the vibration telling me it now has a noise reduction on. Notice the slightly yellowish green light here. If I hit it again, it gives me the feedback. It vibrates to let me know that it's no longer in that mode. Or I can start the recording. And then I stop the recording. And I get those vibrations because vibration notification is on. LED indicator is just a matter of, do I want these little lights on the microphone on or off? In my case, I usually leave them on because I like to see the fact that they're doing what I expect them to do. And transmitter auto off simply means that the transmitter will turn off after a certain period of inactivity. I believe it's 30 minutes, which could be helpful in saving battery. This last option here, I'll go through these fairly quickly, are your regular settings for the receiver itself, just brightness values, things like language, setting the date and time, doing a factory reset, what version do you have, and then of course compliance info. Most of that stuff you will never really use. All right, so now we're looking at the side of the Sony A7. I'm going to open up these two tabs here, and in here is where we will do our connections for our headphones. This is the headphone jack here. And then this is where we connect the other end of that 3.5 millimeter cable. So we're gonna reach over here, we'll grab that. We'll take one end, plug it to the out of the receiver and plug it into the in. Do not put this end into the headphones here. Don't do this, put it here. And then this can get mounted if you're working behind the camera. This way you can mount it like this, or if you're doing some stand-ups and so forth, you can mount it forward like so right here in the cold shoe of the Sony camera. When we're done, we just basically disconnect everything, power everything down. So we hold the power button down here like this. We turn off this transmitter here, and we can turn off this transmitter here. Again, we open the case right here by pressing down. Put the transmitters away. The receiver goes in like so. So that sits like that. Close that up. Put it back in its case along with the cables. Put these back here. Like so. Make sure our windscreens are back in here as well so you can see those. You can see our two windscreens in there. And then this zips back up. And you're done.